Good afternoon, all students, all of you. I hope you've had a good week. I hope that the holidays, for those of you who are observing the holidays, have been going well for you. We're about to come to the end of that period of time, which the Jewish community, I guess, has mixed feelings about. It is wonderful 23 days, but it seems to be a long one. And this will be 24 since the Sabbath Shabbat comes at the end of this. So we'll attach that to it, at least for those who are living in the United States. So I hope you've been able to manage Schoology okay and have the book that you need and are downloading whatever you need. This is going to be a regular part of the class. Every week I'll try to be responding to both your texts, your posts, and the overall reading for the week, and some of the things that I've seen in it, with some conclusions and a little bit of introduction to the following week. Usually this will happen on a Thursday night, and this coming Thursday night, the next one in a week, I'll be doing it. So let me make just a few comments this time around. First of all, everyone is worried at the beginning of this kind of course whether they are posting properly, whether there's enough, too much, too little, all of that. I want to say that in this first week, all of you have posted very nicely. I very much enjoyed the reading. I very much enjoyed what you've said. I sent out a little note about creating a different discussion thread around coffee shop. So if there's ways that you want to be in touch with other students individually, or there's different kinds of things you want to share, that's perfectly fine. But we want to keep our discussion threads, for the most part, on task, as they say. It can certainly stray a bit, but in general, related to the questions that I've posed. The length of the post sometimes can be a little much, but so you could use a little more editing. I don't want to intimidate or squelch any of your ideas, but oftentimes it's better to try to limit yourself to shorter posts. It's much easier to respond to them, fewer points, and so on. But we'll see as the semester goes forward. So let me talk a little bit about the three discussion areas. The first was insiders and outsiders, and that seemed to get the most responses. I've been using this essay for a number of years because it seems to me that it makes us aware, as we begin this study, of the particular nature of religion and religious identity, a little bit different from other things. So if you are having a course on in engineering, of civil engineering, the insider-outsider thing is not particularly, as important. Of course, on physics, you do have people who know more, you have people who know less, but it's a different way of understanding how one is part of a particular culture, part of an identity, and so forth. So, in my view, it's very useful to think about this question of who am I? What am I in this? How do I understand myself? Where do I fit into this entire picture? And I think that this focus on these four kinds of ways that we talk about, that we communicate about things, insider, outsider, and so on, is sort of useful as we think about the way we inquire in general. The most important thing is to understand that the term insider or outsider is a kind of heuristic term. It's intended to be useful. It doesn't represent true or false. It's always shifting ground. You're an insider for this, you're an outsider for that. But sometimes it can be very useful to think about oneself this way and to think about the other. How am I dealing with the other? Throughout this course and throughout even the discussion, many of you said you're uncomfortable with this insider-outsider thing, which is entirely appropriate because you are an insider for certain things and an outsider for others. People will look to you after you take this course and say, oh, you're really knowledgeable about Judaism and the Bible and so on. You can tell me all kinds of things. And you'll say, well, I only had one course. But you will be an insider for certain kinds of things compared to the person that you're speaking with. That's a major part of really what I was hoping would come through as you have this conversation. one of the other things that comes up here is the question of what is the discourse in this course? Is it insider to insider, insider to outsider, outsider to insider? When I used to teach at the University of Florida in Gainesville, clearly the religion courses that I taught and the Judaism courses were outsider to outsider. That is, I didn't assume anything about what people knew about Judaism or about anything else. And I, therefore, in teaching them, had to come to them with a particular way of thinking about it, which was an outsider way of thinking about it. And therefore, I then communicated to them that way. Now, there were times that I did communicate as an insider when I talked to them about religious ritual and how it works, about the Jewish holidays and so on. Then I would come as an insider, helping to reveal to them certain things. This course with all of you is a little mixed. It's a little insider to insider. It's a little insider to outsider. It's a little outsider to insider. There's a lot of things there, and it might be useful as you think about what we're doing to, I wouldn't spend too much time worrying about it, but to think about what kind of comment is Mesh making and what does he assume about us and our knowledge. Next area of Green's essay, which I think is a really interesting attempt to try to figure out what is this Judaism all about and how do we find coherence, how do we find connection. I think Scott's idea that said that maybe it's a lot of individual things, but not all kinds of things at the same time, has a lot of promise to it. And I would ask us to continue to think about how that works. People have looked at a question called the essence of Judaism. What's the essence of Judaism? Belief in one God, the Shema, which is the belief in one God, the Hebrew language, the Torah, the law, halacha. None of those seems to me to quite do it. And the question that we might ask is, what could Judaism do without? Would be another way to ask the question. Or in looking at Green and this idea of pluralism and coherence, we might think about what would qualify as a non-Jewish idea? If we're looking at Jewish history, Jewish culture, and so on, what is a Jewish idea? What is a non-Jewish? Is it just simply an idea raised by a Jew? Does that make it a Jewish idea? Maybe yes, I don't know. As we embark on this journey together, what do we select to study? And what really qualifies and what doesn't? There are certain implicit things that happen here. There are certain accepted things, certain commonplaces. But these are not questions that are actually very easy to answer, and different periods of time, people focus on different things. So we've been looking at women's issues for the last 30 or 40 years. We didn't look at that much before, and how Jewish women relate to non-Jewish women and so on. That really wasn't part of the discourse. So what is a Jewish idea about women, and how does that work? Well, we'll have to figure that out. Another question is, as we're embarking on this path, how much time should we spend on learning about Christianity and Islam? Since so much of what happens later on in Judaism happens as a response to these two religions and cultures. And there's controversy over that as well. The third reading from Mark Brettler, it's interesting for you to note that Mark is actually an Orthodox Jew committed to a historical reading of the text, and he asks these questions, which I mentioned at the end of the postings, that people didn't really seem to want to answer much, but we'll talk about it next week, about how can you really have a historical reading and still view the scripture as a kind of spiritual document, as a holy document. How does the historical critical reading, is it helpful, is it not helpful? And what about other kinds of readings, literary readings? And we'll begin to look at that next week. I think that you'll find the reading, particularly from the other book that has the same title. Brettler's book is, what is it? How to Read the Bible, and another great biblical scholar, Kugel, has a book of the same title. Brettler changed the paperback to how to read the Jewish Bible, but not a whole lot of difference in what they did, but their approaches are very different. If you have a chance to look at the approach of Kugel, we'll talk about it here as well, or we'll be writing about it, the differences between Brettler and Kugel, and maybe that will come up next week. So I hope you have a good week. I hope that Those of you who are observing the holidays, enjoy the holidays. Enjoy the reading for next week. Bye-bye.